Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a used book haul. It's a rainy day today, and I ended up going, after I was grocery shopping and doing a bunch of other errands, I stopped by the Goodwill in town, which sometimes surprises me with the books that I find. And this time I think I found a couple of decent things. I've only got 5 here. I just figured I'd make a very quick video and show people. And as usual, if people have read these things, I'd be curious to hear what they have to say about them. So the first thing I'm familiar with, I was just really happy to find this for $1. This is, of course, Conan, the Frost Giant's Daughter and Other Stories. This is Volume 1, back when Dark Horse had the rights to Conan, who were doing their run. It was written by Kurt Busiek with artwork by Carrie Nord, and I really liked Carrie Nord's artwork. I just thought that his style fit really well with the Conan stories, and this is basically the Conan the early years, and I actually do own this already. I have the hardcover version of this and Volume 2, and they are signed by Carrie Nord, and I think they're signed both by Busiek and Nord. So I've got those 2 signed copies downstairs on my shelves. This is just kind of a little bit of a reading copy, and eventually I'll pass this on to my son. I figure if Michael K. Vaughan does Sumerian September again this year, I'll probably just do a reread of these during that time. So I'm always excited to pick up graphic novels super cheap because they can be very expensive. Next thing I got. American Gospel, God, the Founding Fathers, and the Making of a Nation by John Meacham. I have read John Meacham's work on his biography of Thomas Jefferson, which I quite enjoyed. I have 2 others on the shelves behind me. I have his work on Lincoln, and also I think it's the Soul of America. I think that's maybe what it's called. So I have both those on my shelves, but I haven't read those yet. But I was happy to find this in a relatively good condition hardcover as well. This is one of his earlier works. I think this came out in the mid-2000s, 2006 or so. I could just verify that. Yeah, 2006. And it looks at religion within the Revolutionary Age. I don't know a lot about it, but so far the things that, what I read from John Meacham for, of course, for Jefferson, and what I've read about John Meacham, he does seem to give a pretty fair assessment. So from what I read on the inside, it looks like it is going to take something of a middle of a road look. Debates about religion and politics are often more divisive than illuminating. Secularists point to the wall of separation between church and state, while many conservatives act as though the Founding Fathers were apostles in knee breeches. As Meacham shows in this brisk narrative, neither extreme has it right. At the heart of the American experiment lies the God of what Benjamin Franklin called public religion, the God who invests all human beings with inalienable rights, in a nation that protects private religion from government interference. It is a great American balancing act, and it has served us well. So I'm looking forward to reading this. This is a possibility for Q3 this year of Historathon, which you don't know what Historathon is. That is a reading event that I created, but I've got some great co-hosts and a bunch of great people also following along, where we are reading nonfiction history throughout the year. We divide the year up into 4 quarters, each 3 months long, and each quarter looks at a different time period. And Q3 is when we look at the years 1500 to 1820. So this fits in nicely with that. So that is a possibility for Q3 for me, as is this, as is the next one actually. But these are the kind of things that you'll find, especially in like a undergrad history class, perhaps. But I always like finding things like this. So this is Women's Rights Emerges Within the Anti-Slavery Movement, 1830 to 1870, A Brief History with Documents. So this is mostly a primary source document collection. And one of the things that I do want to focus on this year, or at least it's one of the ideas that I'm having, is to, through Historathon, I don't really have anything that fits in with Q1 for this, but in Historathon this year, to focus a little bit more on women's history. I do have a couple of books that deal with women in the Viking Age that I plan to read in April. And I have another book on medieval women troubadours and poets, so I'll probably read that. And I know I have some books on witches, historical witches. That would fit into quarter 3. And quarter 4, I do have a book on flappers, flapper history from the 1920s. So this is another one that I might maybe dive into a little bit. What I found interesting here was when I read inside the preface. This is just the second paragraph. The chief actors in this dramatic story were Angelina and Sarah Grimke. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Daughters of a prominent slaveholding family in Charleston, South Carolina. Their migration out of the South and their recruitment into the most radical form of anti-slavery protest set the stage for their innovations on behalf of women's rights. In the process of breaking down the barriers of opinion that prohibited women from speaking in public, they created a platform of women's rights that insisted whatever is morally right for a man to do is morally right for a woman to do. So it seemed like it would be a very fascinating story to have these women that come out of a slaveholding family end up joining the anti-slavery movement and also contributing to the women's rights movement. So this is be a cool thing to dive into. When you have a whole this collection of primary sources, it might not always be the most compelling reading, but it's certainly one to kind of, interesting to pick up and flip through. And this next one doesn't really need much introduction. I did get a hardcover copy of Ron Chernow's Alexander Hamilton, which of course was the inspiration for the Broadway musical as well. Very well-known biography. I do actually have I haven't read it yet, but I have a soft cover that is just kind of beat up. And this one, aside from this, where somebody obviously made the poor decision to put stickers on that had been taken off, the book itself is actually in excellent condition. So I was happy to find a hardcover of this. Usually, I find this book quite often secondhand, either in library book sales or in something like Goodwill, but it's usually beat to hell. It's usually in awful condition. So I was just really happy to find this one in good condition. And finally, I got this book just as the employee was putting it on the shelf. I saw him put it down on the bottom shelf, and I immediately, when he walked away, I picked it up. So there's a nice big tome here. You can see it's Tales of Mystery and Imagination by Edgar Allan Poe, with illustrations by Harry Clark. So this is, of course, a work, collected works of Poe, but with some really great illustrations in here. Some of them full color plates. A lot of them are like ink illustrations. Find some of the black and white ones as well in here. It's quite a picture. That one's great. Look at that. So I am a fan of Poe. I love the horror genre. I love Edgar Allan Poe, and these illustrations, which I've seen before. I've definitely seen a lot of these illustrations before, but to find it in this nice hardcover collection, all of these, I was really excited about this. Definitely made the trip to Goodwill worth it. Now I picked up some other things when I was there, mostly stuff that I got from my kids and have already given to them, but these were the ones for me. So as usual, if you've read any of these, I'd like to hear thoughts on them. So I picked up Illustrated Poe, Alexander Hamilton, American Gospel, Women's Rights Emerges Within the Anti-Slavery Movement, sort of a mouthful, that one, and some Conan. So as always, thank you, BookTube.